Going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland with Lauren Khalil, who's joining us from Missouri?
Missouri.
Depending on where you're from.
No, I'm not from here.
No, but I meant the pronunciation depends on where you're from.
Oh, yes.
Because I would say, being from the West Coast, Missouri. But
I would also say Missouri. People in Missouri say Missouri. That's why
Missouri.
I said it.
You're a denizen of that area. Yes.
Yeah, and I will never forget when I was transcribing a story that I did in the local news station here, right on the border of Missouri, and they said "worshing," and I went around to every producer. I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. They're like, oh, it's washing the laundry.
Yeah.
Worshing.
Mm-hmm. My mom, every now and then, she's from Iowa, so Midwest. She's got that accent. Every now and then, that it sneaks in there. I was like, gotcha with the worshing the clothes. That's an interesting, it's an interesting Midwestern accent. But we got a lot. You're there to cover a CrossFit competition that Jacob Heppner is programming. Monster, right?
Yes, he programs for it. I'm pretty sure he'll make an appearance. I mean, he has twins on the way, so I don't know how much longer he can travel, but rookie Chris Ibarra is going to be here. Olivia Kerstetter is going to be here, and Paige Powers is also going to be here. They might jump into maybe one or two or a couple of the elite workouts. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Tommy is not here, obviously, today. He is doing back-breaking manual labor on his newly purchased property. So he's out feeding a tree into a wood chipper someplace in Salinas.
Got rid of the coconut trees or the palm trees.
Yeah, I guess his father-in-law was out with a tractor pushing stuff to the middle of the field. Now they got to go out and chip it because the good old father-in-law only had the wood chipper for 24 hours. So we got to make it interesting. So Tommy is going to be MIA today, but we got a lot to talk about because a lot has been going on. So we'll jump right into the headlines. As of right now, as of this recording, we know 2 events that are going to take place at the CrossFit Games. Event number 1, which is the run swim event, which I believe is 4 total miles. We just don't know how it's going to be divided up. And then we know event 7 that's going to take place Saturday morning right before the first cuts, and that is Chad. And that, of course, is the 1,000 box step-ups for time that has generated a lot of conversation in the space. You guys talked about it on Death By, and I was listening to it yesterday in the car because I didn't have a chance to watch it live.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a twist. So I'm going to weigh in. Here's what I think they should do.
Okay, good. And then I'll say what I think they should do.
So, first of all, you do not want to make this longer. And every twist that I see is going to make this longer, right? You don't want 90 minutes of this. So what I think they're going to do, what I would like to see, is that every 200 box step-ups, you shed weight. So the women would start with, I think it's
35.
35, so they would shed, it's like 7 pounds, I think, every 5. And then you get to your final 200 are now unloaded. So you can increase the speed throughout.
I like that.
And then the same thing with the men. So it's like you do the first 200 with a full 40, and then you toss some weight off the back, get back to it. So it makes it to where you're hurting. You don't want to go faster, but you can. And it sets us up for, I think, a pretty exciting race towards the end because there will be an increased speed there. Now, that is kind of a judging nightmare. I admit that.
Are they going to have the clicker? Oh, I think they have the clickers anyways.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if it's going to be live. I don't know how they're going to. Yeah, it probably will be live scored, but sometimes that scoreboard does not match exactly what's happened on the floor. Right. Away and things like that. But I don't think it's going to be anything super complex. It's either that or like the first 200 are with a ruck, second 200 with a sandbag, third or with that, something like that. But I don't think we're going to get overly complicated here.
Yeah. When Dave says there's going to be a twist, I think that he still is going to want to hold the integrity of what Chad is without adding so many variables. I think I saw a couple people, or maybe we said it on Death By. I'm confused where I heard it, but somebody was saying like a burpee before a step up. And I don't think that it's going to make it, not that it's going to make it harder, but I think that it might make it more visually entertaining. I think something that could be really cool, but I don't think it will happen because I assume this one is going to be indoors. If they were to have all of the athletes go at the same time, the men and women, so 80 athletes on the football field, it could be cool to then on another half have maybe 80 other boxes and people from the audience,
Mhm.
spectators, could do it alongside them, could be a way to make it kind of cool, and for storytelling on the broadcast, that could be interesting. But uh, something I'm really curious about is how many box step ups do you think athletes are practicing right now? Because I'm seeing all of them do it, but I imagine nobody is doing the full Chad, or maybe since we're still about a month out, maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're messing with it. I think they'll be messing with it with various loadings and things like that. I mean, everyone knows you got to stand up at the top, practice that, make sure you hit that mark.
But do they know?
Well, they should by now. Oh, by the way, we're going to hear, you got Pat Vellner coming up later in the show. I talked to him earlier today. Great interview. He's going to talk about this. He's always fantastic. And this was one of, I think, I always have great, I love talking to
He's
Pat.
great.
He was really good in this one. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But then we have well, first, here's, not to get off on a tangent, but just because this event, Chad, is boring doesn't mean that the broadcast of it has to be. And, this is only going to be, depending on what the twist is, about an hour. Now, if you're going to do it for men and women, that's 2 hours of broadcast. Okay. There's so many opportunities in there to tell stories about athletes, to check in with coaches, to have guests in the booth, to have guests on the floor with sideline reporters. This could be, for people like, I don't want to watch that. Well, if all they're going to show is just people stepping and that's it, then yeah, I get it. But it was sort of the same approach that we had with the coverage that we did do of the marathon row. There were some great stories being told on the floor about what athletes brought out, what athletes were looking at in the crowd.
What's in your bag?
I remember, I think it was Dave Lipson had his laptop in the front row in front of his wife, Camila Blanc-Bazinet, and was playing like a movie for her to watch. All that stuff and those great stories that developed throughout that event were really fun to learn about. So even though the event itself was boring, a bunch of people sitting on the rowers, didn't mean that the broadcast of it has to be. And the right people are there to make this thing interesting.
Well, there's so many good people in our space that, I mean, if you're in the booth and you have a workout that's under 10 minutes, getting an opportunity to really talk to the guests is nearly impossible. And this is a great opportunity for them to get some really unique people, some people that we know, maybe some new people we want to learn about in the space, to come in the booth, chat it up. And at the end of the day, the CrossFit Games programs between 10 and 15 workouts. They don't all need to be super exciting to watch. I know that for the ESPN broadcast, yes, that should be interesting because we want to get more people into the sport, into boxes and doing CrossFit. But at the end of the day, I don't think every single CrossFit event at the games needs to be this big spectacle.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised actually this isn't a day one event, just because and
kind of like it right before the cuts, though.
Well, I'll tell you why, and I talked to Pat Vellner about this later on. And Dave's MO on day one traditionally has been just to beat the living crap out of people. I'm going to beat the living crap out of you for day number one, and then then the real thing is going to start, right? You're going to endure this first day, and I'm going to put you through the ringer, and I'm going to make you want to quit. And that's his background as a Navy SEAL. And there's a quote from Dave, and I do not remember where he said it, but I remember vividly hearing it. That my job is to not showcase the athletes. It's to test them. And this will test them, and this will make them hurt. Like, this is a miserable workout to see if they can get through. So just throwing that out there. But I'm really, this is one where, yeah, I'd love to be calling this because it's such a challenge. Like, how do you make this interesting?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I would live for. Like, okay, you got 1,000 box step-ups. No one's going anywhere. How do you do this? And it's that planning that takes place and the execution that I think is a lot of fun. I'm kind of envious that Chase gets to do this one, but they're going to do a fantastic job.
Well, and the storytelling of who's on the cut line and who is going to go for it. And are they going to be able to go for it? Or are they going to blow up early and not be able to recover and ultimately end their weekend? So I think strategically where it is, it could be more interesting.
Yeah, you definitely want everybody doing this one for sure. I just
everybody needs to do it. But right before the cut, that's kind of like rubbing dirt into the wound from Dave.
It's gonna be aggressive. But then we have the announcement that was made for the run swim. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna hang on. I'm just gonna call up the video here really fast so people can see, because there was some confusion. You're gonna see, if you're watching this, you're gonna see Tetlow first, and I'm gonna go to the announcement. So there's some confusion about who this athlete is testing it. That guy, that's Lucas Cepeda. All right. Lucas used to work at, I don't know if he does or not anymore, but he used to work at CrossFit HQ. That dude is super fit. He's been on a regional team, I think, with CrossFit Santa Cruz. And that is probably video of him testing the event. So this isn't some High Rocks athlete that they got out here to test it.
Is that what people were thinking?
There are some people that thought maybe that was a High Rocks athlete. I saw a couple people who said that, but it's a guy by the name of Lucas Cepeda, longtime CrossFitter, super fit, worked at HQ, and they do this a lot. They have people test these events, and then they they record it, and that's the announcement. So just to clear that up, but this is prototypical day one Dave, run, swim, 2 things, that's it, going to be outside. So now we have 2 events that have been announced that are going to be outside, and athletes are told 95%.
What else is going to be outside?
The one on Friday night in the stadium.
Oh, I was like, wait, I don't think Chad is. Yeah. And I think I saw Helpin put out if that's 95%, there has to be like 80 something events mathematically for it to work.
So yeah,
like thanks to the math.
But things continue to be revealed. We will wait and see if there's going to be any team events revealed. So far, we don't know anything about that. But another thing that was announced, and we more or less knew about this, is that the CrossFit Games are going to be on ESPN and ESPN Plus for the second straight year. That's a big win. And I believe it's 4 live broadcast windows. They had this great graphic that announced.
Yeah, I love that graphic. That is really cool.
And I think they had did they not put the windows? I thought I saw
I know I saw the windows somewhere. I actually think that it was Mike Helpin on Known and Knowable that put the time
but
windows.
it's 2 hours, I think, a night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But let's effort that. I'll effort that right now. But yeah, Mike, I think you're right. I think it was Mike Halpin. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he put graphics up. Because one of them I was like, dang, that's late, but realizing it was, I think they were in Eastern time and we'll be in Central time. Because one of them wasn't ending until like 11 p.m.
I can't find it. Let me check the game site. But it's going to be on ESPN Plus and I think that's everything. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. Like I think they had with the semifinals, like everything was on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
You can watch it on YouTube. And I think the stuff that is on ESPN will be blacked out from YouTube, but then
for 12 hours
later. So you'll be able to see it. So if you don't have ESPN.
Right. So then how does that work for people that aren't in the US?
I'm not sure. I think I don't know if it's geo-blocked or not. I think if you're outside the US, maybe you can still watch it on YouTube, but don't take my word on that. I think that's pure speculation on my part. Let me check the game site to see if the windows are there. But this is a great opportunity to once again, get the sport in front of a national television audience. Yeah. Okay, here it is.
And I wonder, I know that we've loved Madison for so many reasons because you really felt like, oh my God, CrossFit is everywhere here. Oh yeah, perfect. I'm curious to see what it feels like and what the vibes are like of Fort Worth transitioning into a CrossFit town, and if they do that. And I mean, I loved how Madison had their local restaurants do special like CrossFit menus and cocktails and burgers, and I'll be curious to see what they do in Texas.
Here are the windows. If you're watching this, you can see them on your screen. 7 to 9 Eastern. These are all Eastern time. ESPN2 and ESPN Plus on Thursday. Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2, ESPN Plus. Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, same 2 outlets. And then Sunday, they go over to the big network, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Plus. So outside of the television broadcast and exclusive streaming window on ESPN Plus, U.S.-based fans will be able to access the broadcasts on a number of platforms, including games.crossfit.com, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So international-based fans can watch the entirety of the 2024 CrossFit Games on a number of platforms, listing the same ones. There will be no ESPN exclusivity window for international broadcasts. Viewers can watch the action on the platforms listed above for the entirety of the competition. So there's that answer. But yeah, great. I love the fact that it's on national television. I think, look, people are going to find out how good Chase Ingram is here. Like he's fantastic. I thought he did a great job at the semifinals, and he and Adrian and Mike and the whole crew there are going to crush this. So looking forward to them being able to show off on national television and hopefully being able to show off some pretty cool events and get
Yeah.
get people into it. Well, speaking of that, speaking of the games, Dave Castro has been doing his athlete interviews, and he was talking to Laura Horvath, and she asked him about coming to Europe, and Dave said they're hoping to make that happen in the next couple of years. And I know this is something else you also talked about on Death By, and I agreed 100% with what Tim Paulson said. That Norway,
Amazing.
like Oslo, Norway, would
Yeah.
seem to be the best spot, just given the governmental support that CrossFit has over there. But
Well, because what kind of doors does that open for the sport when you have the government backing, like recognizing it as a real sport?
well, it certainly greases the skids as far as getting the venue you want, at the time you
Yeah.
want, and the resources you need. When your government is willing to help out with that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's usually, we see that. Look, we see that in Knoxville when the mayor comes out, or the president of the sporting council, or whatever they call it, and they have signage up, and the town gets behind it. Like, that's great. But when you're at a national level, that's a whole different thing. But
Yeah.
I think it's I think you're going to be really, really happy. CrossFit will be when they take it over there. Look at you were there, the French semifinal. The atmosphere
They
at that,
will not have to worry about not selling tickets.
the Rogue Invitational is going to be in Scotland. Like, that's going to be, I think, a very well attended event. And I think it's time. It is absolutely time that this happens. And now
You've
that
earned
the games, now that the games are down to individuals and teams, it makes it much easier
Yep.
to move that around. And I think that was probably part of the motivation to make that move. But it is time that the games go outside of the United States. It really is.
Well, and especially if you don't have a home location. I know some people might say that it's Dave's ranch, but if there's not a primary location for the games, then why aren't we moving it similar to the way that the Super Bowl moves every year? Not to say that we need to move every year, but if it moved every 3 years, I think that could be really interesting and logistically maybe not as fun for the team. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see when they do announce where it is. And I know that who else was on the show that day? Did James say he wants to see it in Iceland? I would also support that.
Yeah. then it becomes getting resources,
But
equipment, broadcast stuff, like all that.
I don't know how easy that would be.
A little more tricky. Like, I think London is another realistic one as well, too.
Yeah. Well, because you also have to think of and this could be a smart move on Rogue having the Invitational over there. I'm pretty sure they have a warehouse in Europe.
I think they do. Yeah.
Okay. Or I feel like I heard that they were working on that, but what a great move for them to start doing that, because then they don't need to ruin that relationship to then work with a different provider for equipment.
That ain't gonna happen. But I just think it's time. It is absolutely time.
Yeah.
The fans over there deserve it. It'll be a fantastic event. And I think there's so many locations where you can do some iconic events, given the history, the different areas that you have to work with. Like, it's a total win. And it's like, I'm surprised it's actually taken this long, but fingers crossed that they can get that, accomplished, because that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Other things that are going on. We have another failed drug test. Carla Cornejo Plasencia with Complex Wadex, a team out in the North America West semifinal. She failed a drug test. Her team is now out, meaning that the Rhino CrossFit Dogs are in. Our good friend Justin Kotler has a team now.
Dogs are in
the CrossFit Games. So that's the latest with the drug testing. I don't know if, other than that, if there's been any more that have come out. The only individual one that we had were, I think, last week, when it was all the stuff that happened in Asia. But
in Asia, yeah.
Fingers crossed that is it. But athlete from a team is out in the West, meaning that.
So that we're still waiting on the East then?
I don't know if we're still waiting on it, but yeah, possible. I mean, I guess because they were last to go, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Rhino CrossFit Dogs, congratulations, you're going to the CrossFit Games.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the TYR Cup at TYR Wodapalooza SoCal. We have been lucky enough to be working with Loud and Live and TYR Wodapalooza SoCal to announce those athletes live. We're doing that. Next one's coming up this Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. I will be on with athlete number 4, who's going to be announced. And we have 3 athletes so far: Jeff Adler and Danielle Brandon for Team North America, and Tia Toomey for Team World. I'm so fired up for this
I
event.
can't wait to see how this all pans out, because this is what I mean, a year ago, I feel like this is what we were really talking about, is
Yeah.
how do you gain interest in the off season? How do you get the big name athletes to come to your event when they have so many options? And this truly is just a great structure. Without, obviously, we haven't seen the programming yet, but athletes typically have concerns of what is the volume going to look like, especially when this event is so close to after the games. I think Jeff Adler, when he was speaking with us, he was kind of alluding to, yeah, I'll take a little bit of time off and then I'll keep training, but nothing crazy, because you're on a team and you
Mhm.
can distribute the volume. So I think that is a huge like factor for these athletes too, to want to do it.
If this works the way I think it's going to work and be
Mhm.
as exciting as I think it's going to be, I think this should just be the team format moving forward. I really do.
Oh,
And
like
Dave,
for the games?
yeah, I just like
Yeah.
this teams of 4. Like, let's make it fun and let's make it interesting, and let's stop pretending this is about finding the fittest team because of the super teams and everything that are coming together. Let's make it something cool that people want to watch, where it's who was the best team that day, who had the best strategy, who handled the personnel the best. That makes the team competition to me much more watchable, and people get much more invested in it. And I don't know how you make that look, but Dave kind of alluded to this also in another one of his athlete interviews. I think it was Saxon Panchik, where Saxon asked him about would you move the team competition separate
Oh,
later in
yeah.
the season so people can do both. Well, here it is. This is how you do it. And
Yeah.
if you want to work with partners to make that happen, TYR Wodapalooza SoCal could be where you crown the champion
Mhm.
and have some sort of, I don't know, some sort of Champions League type thing series throughout the season to where athletes can take a break from their individual stuff, compete as a team, not kill themselves, earn points, move to that thing. There's a lot that needs to be figured out there, but I love this format. I'm really excited for it to see
Well,
these
and
individual
especially,
athletes.
like, these athletes then don't need to divert from their typical training, because their weaknesses as an individual athlete, they're still gonna have those same weaknesses as a team athlete. Yes, then when you train together, you're doing different things, but a lot of these athletes still train independently or follow their own programs, and this is a seamless way to allow them to still do that.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, an event that you were able to go to and absolutely loved, Fitfest, they're already talking about their next iteration
Yeah,
in
they got the
2024,
dates and the people.
and they have named their captains for this year: Ricky Garrard, Ariel Lowen, Emma McQuaid, and Bjorven Carl Gumanson. That, for people who don't know about this event, you were there. Just explain a little bit about how that whole thing worked.
Yeah, so this is different from, uh TYR SoCal, because TYR SoCal is a head-to-head battle of the elite athletes, where and there's prize money, a lot of prize money. With FitFest, this is more of a showcase. And even the conversations that were happening throughout the conversation, it was, what was it, 3 teams of 6? So 3 men, 3 women on each team. And as they were going over the programming, I mean, the guy who was in charge was like, "Hey, do you guys rather do this or that? What do you think is going to be better for the audience?" So it really is a spectacle, and it gives athletes the opportunity to, Victor Hoffer comes to mind. He's incredible on his hands. If he can do some freakish circus act and he's on a team, let him do that as part of one of the workouts. And there was no prize money. They did like have an award ceremony, but it really is just an opportunity to get the athletes together in a different environment, which is the team, to showcase their skills, but also interact with the fans. There was a lot of activations that were going around with athletes at their sponsor booths, or autograph signings, pictures, things like that, which really help build that audience and the star power that a lot of these athletes have.
And they have a draft too. They draft their
Yeah.
teams. Like, it's great. Like, they did it live last year, I remember, and they've added,
Yeah.
I guess, a 4th team this year. Now they have four captains as
Mhm.
opposed to 3. But again, this kind of stuff is, I think, where we all need to be thinking about as far as the team competition is concerned, and where it needs to go to make it better.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be about a pure test of fitness. It can just be a fun team event where whatever team figures it out the best wins.
Yeah.
And you can have big names. And yeah, FitFest is something to keep an eye on for sure, because they, like TYR Wodapalooza SoCal, are doing a really good job of trying to innovate and trying to make things different for fans and more interesting. So yeah,
Mhm.
we'll keep an eye on details for that because I would love to watch the draft too because
Yeah, and the way that they're doing it this year, they're adding, like you said, a 4th team, and it's gonna be Europe versus the rest of the world.
mm,
Mhm.
okay, good stuff. Europe versus the rest of the world. Bring it on, rest of the
Yep.
world. Okay, last piece of business that we need to take care of. We have partnered with our good friends over at Barbells for Bullies. Dog Days of Summer. We are trying to help them get some dogs, some homes. Our dog of the week this week is this lovable mutt, Kronos. He is a 1-year-old male.
So
He's
cute.
leash trained. He's a kissy pup, apparently. Loves utility. He's good with dogs, and he's house trained. He's from New Jersey. He's been bounced around the shelter due to no fault of his own, ready for his own fairy tale ending. This guy is sweet and loyal, who is learning how to dog and how to behave in his home. He is currently with at Homeward Bound NJ. So at Homeward Bound NJ, and he looks like your type of pup. You should reach out now. So reach out to either if you like Kronos. Let's scroll through here and see. There's his bio. There's another picture. That's a good looking dog.
Oh, that is a good
Be a
picture.
fun like running partner or going to the park kind of dog. If you're interested in giving Kronos a forever home, at Homeward Bound NJ, you can reach out to them if you're local. If you're not and you're still interested, reach out to Barbells for Bullies. They will facilitate out-of-state adoptions. Alex and Lindsay at Barbells for Bullies are fantastic human beings. I love working with them, love helping them out, and they are all about doing what's best for dogs. So if you really think that Kronos is the dog for you and you're outside of New Jersey, get a hold of Barbells for Bullies. Let them know you're interested, and they might be able to hook something up for you. So we're really happy to be partnering with Barbells for Bullies. And if you're not following them, follow them. And if you're interested in helping dogs in your own community, Barbells for Bullies will do that. They help you
They're
set up
great.
competitions where you can benefit local shelters. It's a lot of fun. So get a hold of them if you're interested in doing that. So Kronos is our dog of the week here.
Cute little
Okay,
pup.
those are our headlines for the week.